Hello everybody and welcome to the flight deck of a Boeing 737-800 from PMDG. Today I'll be doing a cold and dark startup and I'll get this aircraft all ready for taxiing. I'll be following the procedures that I learned, but if you got any feedback, please let me know so I can correct them. I'm currently in Oslo Gardermoen and I'll be configuring this airplane for a flight to Bergen on the west coast of Norway. The first thing that we need to do in a cold and dark state is to turn on the batteries to get some power. You do that from the overhead panel here by closing this little lid. As you can see, the lights are now illuminated and we're having a battery discharge of -37 on the DC amps here. The source of these numbers are chosen by this little knob here, so you can turn them around. You can see that the numbers are changing. But the thing that we're interested in now currently is the battery status. So turn this to bat and you'll see the discharge up here. You can also see that the battery discharge light has been illuminated. Also, I want to make sure that the fuel pumps are in the off position. I want to make sure that the ELEC 1 and ELEC 2 switches on the hydraulic pumps panel is in the off position. Next, I want to turn off the APU bleed, as well as closing the isolation valve. Moving down, I want to ensure that the parking brake is set, and that the fire detection systems are all working. There's two tests that you can do to test this. The first one is by turning this switch to the left side here. You can see that these two lights are illuminated. If they're not, something's wrong and you should not go ahead with the takeoff. Pushing this to the other side, you can see the engine 1 and engine 2 overheat signs are illuminated and the handles are glowing red. You can also hear the fire alarm, which you can silence by clicking this button, and that we are having an overheat detected sign in here. Let's turn off the test by putting this one back into the normal position. Moving on, I want to go ahead and connect this one to an external power using the FS Actions menu here, and then you go into ground connections, and then you make sure that the wheel chucks is set. And then you can go ahead and click ground power to connect that, and you can also go ahead and connect the air conditioning unit so we can get pre-conditioned air from the airport. Now that we're connected to the ground power, we need to switch the power source that the airplane is using, which is currently the batteries. To do this, you can turn this knob into ground power. You can see that this number is currently around 400, which is all normal, indicating that we're now having a lot of power. You can also see that the ground power available sign is illuminated, so you can go ahead and click this little switch here to get all connected. The first thing that I want to do at this stage is to make sure that the aircraft is getting aligned. This process usually takes around 10 to 15 minutes depending on where in the world you are. So let's go ahead and turn this knob into nav. And then with this, you can see that the on-VC light is illuminated and then it's switching into the align. You can check the remaining time on the alignment by turning this knob into the HDG STS position. And let's wait for this countdown to, you can see that we're currently 15 minutes away from aligning our IRS. The further north you are on the globe, the longer time it takes for this one to align. The next thing I want to check is that my landing gear is in the down position. You can see the green lights are illuminated, so all good. I can also double check this by checking that these green lights are also illuminated, as well as having this handle in the lower position, which is the gear handle. Then I'm going to go back up to the overhead panel here and arm the emergency exit lights. So just close this lid and it will get armed, and you can see that the not armed light is extinguished, so all good there. Then I'll go back to the FMC here and click return and menu. I'm going to go ahead and click FMC and then position unit. And we need to make sure that the IRS position is set. This can be done by using the numbers on page 2. See that the GPS is having a proper position, so you can go ahead and click this one and it will be copied into the scratch pad. I can hit previous page and then just paste it right in. At this stage, I also want to put in the reference airport, which is the airport code for Oslo Gardermoen, which is ENGM. And I'm going to put this one into reference airport here. And I also know that I'm currently at gate 16, so I can go ahead and plot that in here as well. I can now continue with one last thing, and that's making sure that the flaps are in the up position. That's as well as, let's see here, let's zoom a little bit in. Flap is now in the up or 0 position. All good. Another important thing to check while doing the fire test is that the wheel well fire light is illuminated. So let's go ahead and just do this one more time. You can see that the light is illuminated, so all good. Having that done, I can go ahead to the upper panel and turn on the wheel well light. Even though it's daylight, it can still get a little bit dark under an airplane, so I still want to turn this one on. At this stage, I'd like to go ahead and fill the airplane with some fuel, so I can go down to the FNC again, and then hit menu, go to FS Actions, and then Fuel. I planned this flight using PFPX, a great tool for doing flight planning, as well as getting all the information you need to plot into this computer here. So I can go ahead and check that I'm currently having, let's see, 8,707 in fuel. All good. You can see that the airplane got a little bit lighter now. I can go to return and then set the payload. The payload is the amount of cargo you're having and the number of persons. You can set this by either manually plotting in the values here, or you can change the zero fuel rate. I'm just going to do the latter for simplicity, so 131.1, looking at the dispatch papers. You can see that the center of gravity is now 23.7. This number is something that we need later. You don't need to memorize it because it's automatic. I'll show you how later, but just remember that it's 23.7. Then I can call the ground crew and let them know that they can start refueling as well as loading the catering service. So you can hear them start to do their work outside now. I know that they will be needing a couple of doors open, so I can go into the door selection here, and I can go and open the right doors, because I know that the catering service is using them. There we go. I might as well close the left entry door as well, rather than here. And then I'll reopen it when I need it. Okay. At this point, we're all ready to start preparing the flight deck itself and get the flight specifics all programmed into the systems. I like to do this from the upper panel here. So let's see, we're still having 7 minutes left of the RS2 line, so still got some time. First, check the flaps annunciators. Make sure that all these lights are illuminated. Then we need to check that the service info is in the off position. Also, make sure that the engine 1 and 2 reverser lights are extinguished, that the EEC are on, that we got some crew oxygen, and that the passenger oxygen switch is all in the normal position. Then we will check the flight recorder, so I can go ahead and turn this one to the test position. The light is extinguished, so it's all good and normal, so I can close this one to put it back into normal position. Then we'll test the clackers, the airspeed warning, all good, all good, and then the stall warning, all good, all good. Then you also want to make sure that the PSU light is extinguished. If this is on, you should not take off. This system basically tells the airplane if it's on ground or not. Going down to the next panel, I like to do this in a waterfall flow, so this panel first, all the way down, then I'll move to the next one, all the way down, and so on. Starting here, the flight control AMD should all be in a closed lead position, as well as having the low pressure lights indicated, because currently ELIC 1 and ELIC 2, the hydraulic pumps is off. Turn on the yaw damper. Make sure that the navigation switches are all in the normal position. Normal and normal. The display should be in auto, as well as the control panel switch should be normal. The engine valve should be closed, both of them, as well as the spar valve. All good. Going down, let's test the takeoff speed. Open it by turning this knob. You see that the valve is now in transition, opening up. There it is, it's open. Then you can go ahead and close it. You can see that it's open by either checking this light here, or that this line is connected to the other side. But we'll make sure that we close the door so the catering guys can complete the job. So let's go back to the menu here. FSX actions, doors, then let's close the doors. Just like that. There we go. Let's go back up to the overhead panel now. And continue the flow on this next panel. I'll leave these switches where they are because this is currently the power source that we're using. Still all good. And then make sure that the cab utils and the in-flight entertainment systems are in the on position. Make sure that standby power is in auto, usually it. And let's not touch these controls yet because we're currently using ground power. We don't need to be using any of the other systems yet. But we switch to those once we're turning on the APU and the main engines. Make sure that the equipment cooling is in normal, both of them. This is basically a system that cools down the heat generated by all of these panels. It's important that this one is working. We don't want to have fires in the back of our panels there. Then let's put the fasten seatbelt sign to auto. Make sure that the wipers are in park position because it's raining. Let's test the window heat. Turn all these on. And then push the overheat test to the up position. There we go. Turn it off, and then we need to restart the window heat. We want to keep the window heat on at this time because it's quite cold outside. Pro heat, let's try that. Everything good, all of the lights are extinguished. Turn it off. We need the power that this one is consuming while we're starting the engine. Let's try the wing anti-ice and the engine anti-ice. All good, let's turn it off. I like to turn on one of the switches here. Let's turn on both of them just to test it. You can see that the low pressure light indicator has been extinguished, both on this area and this area. Let's keep one of them on. All doors are now closed. That's good. Let's do our cockpit voice recorder. Keep this in for around 5 seconds. You can see that the light is now illuminated, indicating that it's recording, and then we can erase the message that we just recorded. Cabin pressure, all good. Let's check the temperature of our pre-processed air. It should be around 20 degrees Celsius, so all good, and all good. Premiere should be on. Left pack and right pack should be in the off position. Isolation valve is closed. The recirculation fans is on and auto. APU bleed is off, and the engine bleeds are both in the on position. All good. Let's set the pressurization. Turn this one up to your cruise altitude. In this case, it's going to be 30,000. There we go. And my landing altitude, the elevation of the runway I'm landing on in Bergen, is 147. So let's put this one to the closest value, which is 150. Make sure that this selector is in the auto position as well. But let's test the other one as well. You can see the green light is now illuminated here. Let's go for manual. Illuminated, all good. But let's put this system into auto mode. We don't need to be fiddling around with this. The last thing I want to do in this overhead panel is to set the ignition to the opposite side of where it was. So it was in the L position. I want to push it over to the R. If it would be on the right side, you push it over to the left side. This is basically the ignition systems. The 737 got two of them, and you want to ensure that the wear and tear of them are basically equal. You push this to the opposite side of what the previous flight crew had. Next, I want to test the crew oxygen. You can do this by clicking this little valve here. You can see that we're releasing some oxygen. It's not a continuous flow, so let's check that too. You can do that by just clicking this red circle here. and then hold this one inside, you can see that it's now a continuous flow. All good. Then we want to go ahead and test the lights to push this light switch into the test position. There we go. All of the lights inside of this cockpit is now illuminated, so we can go systematically through everything here to make sure that they're all working. If they're not working and you don't know it until you need a system, it's hard to tell if the system is not working or if it's actually the light bulb that's burned out. All good. See here. All good. All good. All good. Let's check the last things here. All good. Perfect. Let's turn off the lights test. There we go. At this stage I like to start the boarding because after this I want to program the FNC and then set up the rest of the panels before we're doing the pushback. So let's go ahead and call the ground crew and let them know that we're ready for boarding. There we go. Boarding requested. I know that the boarding process is needing a couple of doors. Let's go and open those right now. FS actions. Doors. Let's open the left entry forward and aft doors, as well as the cargo forward and aft. There we go. Next we want to go ahead and program this flight when it comes to the route and the performance. So go back to the FNC. Click FNC here. We already did the positioning in it, so I want to go ahead and program the route. The origin today is going to be Oslo Gardermoen, Echo November Golf Mike. There we go. And the destination is going to be ENBR, so I'm going to go ahead and type that in there. However, since I used PFPX today, I exported planned routes, so you can load this by just typing in the file name of the exported route from PFPX into this field here. So let's copy the first part here, ENGM, and then I save this as ENGM. I saved the file as ENGM, then ENBR. There we go. Paste this one into the call route. See that the destination is now ENBR, and if I go to the next page, page 2, you can see the current route. So I'll be doing something at the airport, then I'm joining this route, and then I'm doing something else to get landed. So let's program that too. Hit the dep R button here to configure our departure. And today I'm going to be using runway 19R. And then I'll be using the WEMI 9D departure and the ATLAP transition. What I just did is to let my computer know that we're taking off from runway 19R. We're following the WEMI 9D departure, then we're using the ATLAP transition to transition from our departure into our route. I also know where I'm landing today. This might change based on messages from ATC throughout the flight, but I still like to program it so I'm ready in case I need it and there's an emergency happen. So let's go ahead and go to the arrivals of our destination here. And today I'll be landing at runway 17 using ILS. And then to get to runway 17, I'll be using the PSU2N arrival, and that's it. And then I'll go into my length page here to see the route that I programmed. Let's go ahead and just close the doors. There's actually doors. Close and close. 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 Then I'll hit return. Then continue at my FNC. So as I was saying, this is currently my route with all of the airways and waypoints all programmed. I want to make sure that I don't have a route discontinuity. I know there's one there. I left it there on purpose. Let's go to the next page. All good. All good. And there we have it. To get rid of this, you can just click the next waypoint and then paste it over it. There we go. All good. So let's break this one a little bit down. We're taking off. We're following the departure here all the way to Atlap. We're transitioning into our route. And then we're following the route all the way into our arrival in Bergen. And then we land on runway 17. Everything is good. Let's double check this by using some handy functions. If I switch this knob into the plan mode, you can see that this display is now changed to a more centered overview of my route. I can hide the yoke by just clicking on top of it, just pushing it down. It's in the way. Let's zoom in a little bit now. You can see that in this mode I'm actually getting a new menu item here called Step. This means that I can step through my route. Let's go to the start of my route by just clicking the next page until I'm at page 1 here. So this is where we're taking off. Then as soon as we're taking off, we're doing a turn, following the departure all the way into the transition. Then we're all the way into Bergen. Then we're doing the approach and lining up with the runway, and then we will land. So everything seems to be in order. I can then click the route button here and activate and execute. Well, you see the route is now turned into this violet colored line here, indicating that this is the current active route that we'll be following. So let's go and set this one into the map mode instead. There we go. And you can also zoom in and out to see that this is my entire route. This is Bergen on the west coast of Norway. Zoom all the way in. I like to take off with this one set to 5. Knowing this, I'm going to go ahead and get the latest ATIS information, so we know how to set our altimeter as well as getting the basic weather. Let's turn this one into 126.12. This number is something I get from the charts of Oslo Gardermoen. It always contains the ATIS information as well as other frequencies that are important to the airport. Hit transfer to make it active. Then we just wait for the message to arrive.
11080 Zulu, wind calm, visibility greater than 20 miles.
So we're having some good conditions here, calm wind, good visibility. Temperature is good, dew point is 4, and the altimeter is at 29.92. So we're going to go ahead and set our altimeter to match this, 29.92. This can be done at the FS panel, and that's the panel you can see here. You can turn this upper knob to set this. You can see the current value down here. It's currently 29.92, which is the correct one, but if it wasn't the correct one, you can see that turning this actually changed it. You also notice the relationship between this one and the altitude. So it's very important to set this one on both the departure and arrival, or else you're going to have altitude issues with your airplane. You can also click on the button B on your keyboard to set this automatically to the current outside setting. There we go. Having done that, I can now go ahead and start programming the FCP. The first thing I want to set is the course knob, which is the current course of my takeoff. I know that runway 19R is having a course of 193. I'll do this on both sides. 193. There we go. And I might as well just go ahead and do the same thing on my current heading here. Just so it's easier for me to turn these knobs in case something happens during takeoff. I'm going to go back to my FMC programming now and the performance in it. and we need to set some performance values here. The first thing we need to do is to get the zero fuel weight. I remember this one was 131.1, but this is also something that you can get automatically by just clicking here one. You can see that this value is now copied into our scratch pad, and then you can go ahead and paste it right in. Looking at my dispatch papers, my reserve fuel is 2.4, and the cost index is 30. And my cruise altitude today is going to be flight level 300. And checking my dispatch papers, I can see that the wind at my cruise waypoints are 170/43. And the temperature at my top of climb is -47. Okay, and also looking at the chart for Oslo Gardermoen, I can see that the transition altitude is 7,000. So let's go ahead and set that in here as well. Then I'm going to go and click execute and go to the N1 limits page. Still looking at my dispatch papers, I can see that we're doing a double derate on my engine, and that we're doing that we're having a temperature of 37 in derate. Just put it in there, and that the climb should be 1. That's all good. What this does is that we're reducing the performance of the engine. Currently is now at 22k of N1, where the maximum N1 is 89.1%. This is all to save fuel and the wear and tear of the engines. All good, let's go ahead and go to the takeoff page. We're doing a takeoff of flap 1 today. Still, this is information I'm getting from the dispatch papers. The N1 is having the derate, everything seems good. The center of gravity, remember that this one was something around 23.3 or something. But we can also get this automatically, so we don't have to remember it. Just click here and then paste it in, 23.7. This gives us a trim of 5.31. We need to remember this number because we're going to set up the trim later. Then I'm going to go ahead and set the VREF speeds. This is the takeoff speed. So V1 will be at 144. We rotate at 145, and then V2 is at 149. So going back to my MCP now, I can set our speed to 149. This is the takeoff speed. There we go. Also want to turn on the flight director. I'm going to start with the captain sides to make this one the master or the primary one, and then I'll turn off the co-pilot one as well. You can see the FT flag is now illuminated on the panel here. Then I can click the VNav and LNav as well, because I'm going to be using these during my takeoff. Moving on, let's check the autopilot annunciators. We do a test. We're having 2 tests. Left click this one to push this switch into low position. You can see that we're having 2 red lights and 1 yellow, all good. And then let's push it into the 1 position, or the upper position. You can see that we're having 3 yellow lights, all good. Make sure that the panels are working. It needs to stay in the normal position in both of them, unless you need to switch which panel is showing what information, in case some of them breaks or something else happens. So you need to make sure that all of them is working. All good. There we go. And let's do it for this one as well. Perfect. The clock is right. Let's move a little bit closer here. The nose wheel steering is closed. All good. We don't need any extra light in the panels today since we're at daylight. We can see everything all fine. Let's go ahead and make sure the N1 is set to auto. Make sure that N1 is set to auto. The speed ref is set to auto. Let's reset the fuel flow. Here we go, 0, 0. All good. And let's set the auto brake to RTO. This kicks in the auto brake system in case we're having issues during takeoff. If you pull the throttle back to idle during takeoff, the auto brake system will help us with reducing the speed of the plane. Let's also go ahead and check the panels here. Ground speed is 0, we're standing still, so that's good. The speed at my speed tape is 45. That's the lowest it can go, so that's all good. The altimeter is set. The heading is 195. The heading is 195. Let's also check the heading here. We have south here, 195. All good. Also, we can also see that the rear speeds are set. The V2 speed is displayed here. The speed is always the same as the speed set here. So all good. The initial altitude that we're going to be working with today is 7,000, not 10,000. So let's go ahead and reduce this one to 7,000. You can also see that this change is now reflected on the panel here. All good. The route is activated. And let's go ahead and push these two into the VOR positions, just to ensure that we're having easy access to seeing the VOR information in case we need that. Speed tape here is 30, that's the lowest, so that's good. The pressure is 29.92, all good. Heading 195. Same goes for this one, 195. Perfect. Moving on to the engine panel here. We are having a double D rate of 37 degrees, which means that we're getting 89.1% of performance. The total air temperature is 14 degrees. We're having low oil pressure, which is normal. 100 in oil quantity. Center tank is empty. Our wing tanks is having 4,350 in each of the tanks. Good. Next, I'd like to go ahead and set the ILS for my departure. It's good to practice to program this in case you're having some emergencies and you need to do another landing or head to another position. For simplicity, I'm just gonna set the same runway here as the one that I'm taking off from, which is 111.30 in Oslo Gardermoen, and I'll do the same one on the other side as well, just to have everything easily available in case something happens. And having this set, you can also use the heads-up display during takeoff. Then you'll get this nice little line that tells you where you should be at the runway, and then you can follow the flight path once you're taking off. I'll show you this in a later video, so let's also go ahead and do some checks here. Parking brake is still set. The speed brake is in the lower position, that's good. We need to set the trim, it was 5.31, so you can go ahead and turn this wheel all the way down to, see it's now 5.31. You will probably get a tooltip here indicating the value this is currently set to. I am not having that visible at the moment since I'm having a screen recorder, so of some reason it's disappeared. Let's check the levers as well. All good. Flaps was in their position at 0. Let's also go ahead and set the get out switches. You set those. All good. These levers are in the cutoff position. Let's do the fire bottle squibs. All good. And also, let's try the fire detection system in the cargo. You can silence it once more. Fire. In there. You can see that these lights are illuminated. Everything is good. Moving on, you can set the HTS to your needs. This is the runway length and the runway elevation and so on. We currently don't need to set anything here because I'm just going to be doing the startup here, but if you want you can use this. Let's also go ahead and set this one to something that the ATC will give us. Let's pretend it was 6244, and let's do a TCAS test. This is the traffic avoidance and collision system. Make sure that we're not colliding with any traffic.
TCAS test. Pass.
Good. Rudder trim is set to 0. Stat trim all normal. Aileron trim. All centered, that's good. And let's also go ahead and check the ground proximity warning systems. Just click this one. GPWS.
Slide
ground
slope.
proximity.
Pull up. Wind shear. Wind shear. Wind shear. Terrain. Terrain. Pull up.
Okay, it's all working. At this point, we're now ready to prepare our pushback and start the APU. So let's just double check that we did everything. We tested the oxygen, all good. The navigation transfer display switches are all in normal and auto. Window heat was working and is currently on. Flight instruments are all set. Parking brake is set and the engine start levers are in the cutoff position. So let's go ahead and start our APU and make our own power so we can disconnect from this airport. We did this from the overhead panel here, so you can go ahead and I want to do one more thing here. I want to test the system, so I can go ahead and put this into test. Same with this one, and then I'll click this button. You can see that the system is now doing a little test here. Checking for issues and errors with the panel. And all good. Let's go ahead and go back to battery here, and then I'll put this one into APU gen. To get our APU running, we need to turn on the fuel pumps. You only need one of them on for the APU to be run and operate, but since we're going to be starting our main engine soon, I might as well just go ahead and turn on all of them. Then we'll turn on the APU, let's put it into on position, and then all the way down to start, and we'll jump back into on. The APU will now start. We'll get a low oil pressure light indicated here, and the exhaust gas temperature will rise once the engine is now starting. And once we're getting power, you should see a frequency around 400 on the panel here, since this one is now on APU gen. And the lights here should be illuminated, indicating that we're now having APU generated power available. You can see that now the exhaust gas temperature is all the way up to 7. Then it's going to roll back and stabilize at around 4. Let's see now. Let's wait for the APU to generate some power. There we go. We're having a lot of power. All good. We can now switch the power source from the external power from the airport. There we go. And while this is happening, I will start the clock here to have a countdown of 1 minute, because I need to wait 1 minute before I can turn on the APU bleed so we can get enough pressure to start our engines. While we're waiting for that, since we're now on the APU generated power, we don't need to have the ground power available anymore, so I can go ahead and turn that one off. Go to menu here, FS actions, ground connection, and let's just disconnect everything here, and let's also go ahead and remove the wheel jobs. There we go. Should now all be ready to go. I might as well just double check that my doors are closed. All of these lights are extinguished, indicating that none of our doors are currently open. Let's double check this timer. We're currently now at 1 minute, so I can go ahead and close this, or stop it. Let's go up here and turn on the APU bleed. There we go. You can see that we're now getting some pressure here. Let's turn the isolation valve to auto. That's good. And then we should be all ready for taxiing. I need to Also turn on the anti-collision light, since we're now currently having an engine on. Every time we're having an engine on the airplane, this needs to be in the on position. Let's just double check that both of the needles are now at around 10, which is enough for starting our engines. Let's do a quick little checklist. The doors are all closed. We're having fuel. The passenger side is in auto. The MCP is set. We're having the VREF speed set, and all trim is already set, and the anti-collision light is on. Alright, we're good to go and do the pushback. To do the pushback, all you need to do is to hold the ground crew, and then select 5, prepare for pushback and departure, and we're going to be taking off from runway 19R, which is on the right side, so let's turn the nose to the right. All good. I can just go ahead and click the master caution light to remove the warnings here. And now that we're doing the pushback, notice the time, it's 11:30, so we're right on time.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback. Locking gear.
Once we're starting the pushback, we want to start the engines. I'm going to start with the engine number 2, which is on the opposite side of the bridge here.
Departure check completed. Live has been inserted. Release parking brakes.
There we go, we can now go ahead and release the parking brake, and they will start the pushback. At this point, I want to change this place a little bit, so I get N2 and some engine stats in there, and then I'm having N1 and the exhaust gas in this one. To start the engine, we need to switch this into the ground position. Let's go ahead and do that. There we are, ground. Then we need to pay attention to these values here. You can see that N2 is now rising. The jet engines of the 737 consists of 2 parts, N1, which is the large blades that's taking in a lot of air, and then N2, which is a rolling system inside of it, compressing a lot of air. So N2, let's wait for N2 to be 25, which is currently it. Do not add fuel to the engine until this is at least 25, to ensure that we're not getting any hop stars or doing anything wrong. You don't want to have too much fuel while the N2 isn't speeding fast enough. So let's go ahead and turn on the fuel now. You can see that we're not getting some data on the fuel flow. There we go. We'll now spike to around 1.3 and then go down, indicating that we're now currently having a steady fuel flow. You can see that the start valve is now open. The low pressure light is extinguished. We're currently having oil temperature and oil pressure. Quantity is still 100, all good. N2 is now 56. You can hear that by listening for a click, and the EGT is all stable. So engine 2 is now running. Let's go for the next one. Ground. Start valve open. Low oil pressure. Waiting for 25 and 2. One is spinning a little bit, that's all normal. And 24 and 25, there we go. We're adding some fuel. Let's pay attention to the fuel flow. 1.3. There we go. And then going back. N1 is spinning. N2 waiting for 56. Low oil pressure is now extinguished. Start valve is still open. It's also quite good to keep your hand on the cutoff in case you're getting a hot start. There we go, it's now 56, you can hear the click. Then we're waiting for this line to disappear. The exhaust gas will go up and then stabilize. All good, both engines are now running. Since both engines are now running, we can go up to the overhead panel here and switch our power source. Make sure to switch this one before you turn off the APU, or else you're gonna have problems. There we go. You can also double check that we're having power using generator 1. And that
Set
we're having
parking brakes.
power on generator 2 as well. You should do this before actually switch to this. There we go. And let's set the parking brake. There we go. Let's go back up here and let's turn on the probe heat. We're not doing anti-ice today because it's a warm weather and it's all clear, but if it's less than 10 degrees and there's moist, you want to make sure that the anti-ice is on. Let's turn on the electric one switch as well, so both of
Unlocking
our
gear.
hydraulic pressure systems are working inside of the plane.
Tow truck disconnected. Bypass speed removed.
We also need to make sure that the temperature is all set, so let's turn on the left and right pack. Let's keep the isolation valve in auto. Let's turn off the APU bleed. And also let's turn off the APU itself. There we go, APU is now off.
Left is clear. Right is clear.
Also set these switches to continuous. There we go. We're all ready for taxiing pretty soon. Let's turn off the wheeler light. Let's turn on the taxi light. And let's go down here and do one last thing. That is to ensure that my flight controls are working. To do this, you can click the switch here. Let's zoom in a little bit. I was clicking the system switch here, which gives us the information about the flight controls. Let's go ahead and return. Elevation and rudder. Okay, aileron, elevation and rudder are all working. We're doing our flap 1 takeoff today, so let's set this one position. There we go. Now we can see that the flaps are moving up into the 1 position. And we're waiting for green. It's now orange. It's not yet ready. There we go. Flaps 1 and green. All good. We can now disengage the parking brake and start taxiing. Just as a final note, I want to show you a couple of things here. Since I programmed the takeoff on the ILS, you can see that the runway is currently visible and that I'm configured for an ILS on direction 193. This can also be seen in the heads-up system here, ILS. And if you line up to the runway, you get this nice little line going through here. I'll show you that in a later video. I hope you found this video interesting and that you learned something. If I'm doing anything wrong, please let me know so I can correct my procedures. If you want more of these videos, be sure to subscribe and give me some feedback on this one. Thank you very much for watching and have a nice flight ahead of you.